Hello, you multi-moonbeaming monologues. That must be me. That was a malt mention, and thank you to Stevie XY for providing it. And welcome, malt mates, to Ralphie Review 943. Wonderful. I'm reviewing a single malt whisky, and I'm going to go over forthcoming reviews into a wee bit of depth about Edradour. It's one of Scotland's smallest distilleries. I've got 9 historic reviews now in the archives, including the peated version of Belechin, named after a now extinct distillery, by the way. And Edradour is a Gaelic word that means the between two rivers. And it can be pronounced Edradour, Edradour. It's actually one of the easier Scotch whisky single malt names to pronounce. But if you're accused of getting it wrong, don't worry about it. Everybody gets names wrong sooner or later. It just is not important. What's far more important is the quality of the juice. Now, some of you will be saying, "Hey Ralphie, it's all very well reviewing these small distilleries, these less well-known distilleries and less available distillery bottlings in the global market. But I'm reviewing it because I want you to make you aware of it. And in making you aware of it, retailers become aware of it. And if they can't import Edradour to their specialist liquor shop, they're going to find some other source, and therefore it's in their commercial interests for the specialist retailer, who is increasingly competing with Amazon and Costco, to name but a few, and most of the airports around the world, there's another few named, to stand out by having better quality, more obscure bottlings of single malt. And when it comes to better quality, this is a very impressive distillery. It was previously owned back in the 20th century. It was owned by Pernod Ricard, but I suspect that they found the distillery simply too small to do anything with. And therefore, in 2002, they sold the distillery to the Signatory Independent Bottling Company, who certainly know their business. And I have to say that it was just as well that an experienced whisky company took over Edradour, because it's a notoriously awkward single malt if you get it wrong. And certainly some of the earlier bottlings that came out were, well, I'll be tactful and call them eccentric. But we're now at the stage where most of the bottlings available are from the signatory ownership regime, and it is considerably improved on what it used to be. In the old days, it used to be an overlooked eccentricity that you popped in to see if you were passing when you were going up Central Highlands and stopping by Pitlochry, which is a well-known and notorious tourist trap. And it is what you would call a farm distillery, originally founded in 1825 or thereabouts by some local farmers as a consortium. And what they did was they converted a traditional Highland farm into a distillery, which is relatively easy to do so long as you're using small stills. And Edradour are not alone in this situation. Another probably very noteworthy example of a distillery which is in fact a converted farm, successfully done, is Kilchoman on Islay. And so there you have it. Without a doubt, the Edradour character of single malt really suits sherry more than it does bourbon, in my opinion. It can work in rum casks, it can work in Madeira masala casks, sweet, fresh wet casks, because of its what we'll call complex and eccentric profile. And I'll be coming to that, back to that shortly. In the meantime, Let's introduce this particular bottling. This is the standard entry level version. That's what it is. If you are buying a present for someone and it's Edredour, this is probably what you'll buy. Good choice, by the way. Very good choice. And it's bottled 10 years old, bottled at 40% volume, so it is chill filtered. And in my opinion, they're trying to make the whisky accessible to your average consumer, although it's also my opinion, it's a big mistake. The minimum bottling strength for Edredour should be 46%. It should be heading towards the same direction as Springbank's already gone. This is the lie of the land now. This is the way things are shaking down as we go into a global let's call it after the pandemic recession. Yeah, a global recession of surging inflation, surging whisky costs, and surging numbers of people saying, whisky's a luxury, I'll pass on it. I'll skip my next bottling. I won't buy 3 bottles next month. I'll buy 1. That's the way it's heading. If you're buying one, recommend this one. It is, when you put your nose to the glass, a great big sherry monster. And it's not just a sherry cask. It is a voluminous, expressive, complex single malt with a full range of sensations. So you're way beyond the standard sweet and sour of many bottlings. You've got a little bit of brininess in the background, quite a lot of umami, and a good dollop of slight restrained, curtailed bitterness due to the influence of these sherry casks, and good quality sherry casks too. I would describe this as vintage Christmas cake, Christmas pudding type style of whisky. The nose alone is going to keep you quite happy for at least an hour. When you get round to sipping it, you'll find that you're getting a lot of whisky in your palate for 40%. But for the volume of the arrival, it tends to fall away quite quickly. It quickly transfers into a sherry simple development and then an abrupt finish with a little bit of pickled ginger, lemon oil and grapefruit juice. I'm going to add a drop of water to this, just a drop. I'll call it 1/10 of a teaspoon. The bottling strength, particularly for those who are moving into higher strength bottlings, whether they're official or independent bottlings, particularly those of you who have the good sense to stock up on Arran's, Deanston's, Glencadam's and Kilkerran's and whatever other integrity bottling whiskies you can. Prices will never ever go down now. They will only go up, and they're going to go up fast over the next few years. And when we're looking at the cost of a whisky, saying that's expensive, have a think about the energy costs alone that distilleries are now facing in Scotland, specifically those who are firing their boilers on gas. The irony is that Britain only gets 4% of its gas from Russia, so it cannot blame whatever's happening and dealings with Russia for the price of gas. It cannot. That, by the way, comes across as a complete disingenuous, fabricated lie. This whole thing is far, far too coordinated for that. But they're looking at, and I want you to picture it this way, energy is focused on to be the hardest hit for inflation, because everything that's produced, every service, everything manufactured, everything in holiday resorts, everything in shops, in the high street, in the supermarket, all relies on energy. Everything's dependent on energy. So if you target energy, you target everything. And it simplifies things when you want to elevate inflation and then control that elevation, because you're controlling it through one mechanism. I noticed the price of gasoline's going down where I am. It's dropped a bit, not a lot, but it's going back down again. So I'm glad I bought a fuel efficient biodiesel van. Wonderful things, vans. You can carry barrels and bottles in vans very comfortably. So I digress a little bit, but I'm making a point here. We're examining the cost of what we buy. Everything's more expensive, and therefore we have to be choosier. We have to get past the horrible situation of buying poor quality whiskies no matter what the cost. And beware, because the biggest discounts in your supermarket may well be for the most inferior whisky brands, like for example Jura, which is a fantastic distillery but very, very poorly branded. I very, very rarely review it. Very rarely. There's a reason. I'm reviewing this small, obscure distillery because the quality is great. The price is good. These distilleries should be encouraged. They should be visible. And for me to sit here with just a standard bottling of whatever, take your pick, Glenlivet Macallan, something widely available, something easily found in shelves. I mean, to be honest, how many low mark reviews would you be wanting? That's just the way I'd put it to you. This is why I'm reviewing less well-known stuff, to get it out there, to let people find it more easily. Taste. Huge improvement. Big sweet and sour arrival. Pure sherry monster. You're wondering if there's peat in there. There is a little, but it's restrained by the wonderfully difficult, complex, unapologetic, totally assuming, uncompromising signature of the stills that are Edredure. It is a delightful and highly successful and well delivered version of an old school, grainy, gritty, earthy, savoury single malt, the likes of which we do not see enough of in the modern market. Too many distilleries are making the mistake of trying to replicate Glenfiddich. Nice, clean, easy, a little bit of sweet and sour, grainy, accessible, bit of barley sugar, bit of honey, bit of raisins and sultanas, job done. When too many distilleries are producing too many similar tasting products, people won't notice them. This, you won't taste anything else like it. It's a fantastic, really good single malt. Unfortunately, this has been chill filtered, so it's had the gut stuffing knocked out it. It's still a good whisky, particularly for people who you want to buy an unknown and a more exotic version of a whisky. They're going to taste this, puzzle, scratch their head, frown a bit, think about it, maybe not like it, not quite sure, come back to it, but see by halfway through the bottle. People will be loving this stuff. It's got true, authentic character, and my goodness, we need more of that in Scotch whisky at the moment. 87 out of 100. That, me merry maltsters, is a standard malt mark. That's what it is. So, if you pop back again for my extras, Ralphie Review 943 extras, I'm going to be talking about stages of development. I'm going to get the blackboard out, I'm going to get the chalk out, and I'm actually going to talk about how our palate develops over time and the reason it develops. This is need to know stuff. If you watch my video, my extras, you will find information that you'll be struggling to find anywhere else. Seriously. I've been round the block with whisky for over 30 years, so I've got a good bearings, and I know that at times my comments are incendiary, inflammatory and controversial. But sometimes conversations need that. Otherwise they get seriously stagnated and become rather boring. Am I right? Yes, I am. Thank you very much. If you've enjoyed this, click subscribe if you haven't. Click the like, leave a comment, because I'd go through the comments and leave the wee hearts to acknowledge. And we'll see you soon, mates. Bye-bye.